Hello and welcome back to my channel. The fake fringe is back temporarily. It's just because I really wanted to wear this flower in my hair today. And I like them best when they're like at the parting. You know what I mean. Anyway, I keep staring up here. That's because I'm trying to make sure that it doesn't look stupid. Okay. Now I've rambled on about my hair. Shall we get on with the book reviews? So this is my June wrap-up video. I can't believe it's July already. I thought time was really going to drag with this pandemic, but it seems to be racing on at the same rate as normal. It's just, you know, worse now. So yeah, June was a bit of a mixed month. So the first thing I have to admit is that the Julianne versus TBR project did not go at all well because I only read one physical book. One physical book. Just know. It's this. Okay, and part of this was not my fault. I had vertigo for the last couple of weeks of the month after I had a migraine, which was lovely. My favourite thing, vertigo, old friend, keeping me company on these long, dull pandemic days by making me feel sick all the time and basically makes me feel like I'm drunk all the time, except without the anaesthetic effect of actual alcohol. Isn't that delightful? So for a solid couple of weeks I could barely read at all, and I pretty much I listened to a couple of audiobooks that I had kept putting off getting from the library, and played games on my phone when I could stand to look at my phone, which wasn't all of the time. So yeah, it's been bad times, what can I say? But I did manage to finish a NetGalley book, and I read a lot of comics when I was starting to feel better. So without any further ado, I will tell you what I thought of those. So the first book that I finished in June was The Love Square by Laura Jane Williams, which is a follow-up to I'll Stop, which was a big hit and lots of people loved it. I really enjoyed it myself, and I was really excited to read The Love Square, and it didn't let me down. It was full of all the lovely character details that I found so enjoyable. I'm not sure I'm convinced it was a love square. When I first saw that it was called The Love Square, I was expecting it to be, well, more love orientated, where I think in this, she's got relationships with these three men, but you know, it's pretty clear that only one of them is really a love match, and the other two are more sort of flings, kind of casual things, and it's just really about the character deciding what she wants, really, out of a relationship at this point in her life. I really love the protagonist of The Love Square and how she is a very flawed person with a lot going on mentally in her life, and she's trying to deal with it the best she can, but she feels under a lot of pressure, and she puts herself under a lot of pressure. You know, she wants to have a child, and she also wants to keep running her own business, but she's under pressure from her uncle to take over his business, and also she can't carry her own child. She needs a surrogate because of having had breast cancer before in her past. And she throws embryos as well, so those have to be used. So any partner she has in the future, they won't be biologically his children, and that makes it really complicated, and I thought that was really interesting, and it was absolutely lovely to see that explored in a book, even though I'm somebody who normally is like, motherhood in the plot, get it away from me. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Laura writes next. The next book I finished reading, I have been trying to finish for absolutely ages, and that was This Green and Pleasant Land by Aisha Malik, which I started absolutely months ago. It was the last audiobook I started before the pandemic, actually, and normally I get through audiobooks really quickly, you know, in everyday non-pandemic conditions. I listen to them basically all the time. I get through them pretty much within a few days just by listening to them while I'm doing my makeup in the morning and taking my makeup off at night, getting ready for bed, that kind of thing. Like, because I listen to them sped up, I can usually get through the, you know, like at least one a week. But I just haven't been doing any of those things. You know, most days, if I have a meeting at work, I'll put some lipstick on and that's about it. You know, this is, you know, my normal level of, dressed up and made up, and that is not happening every day. I put this effort in for these videos, you know, and it's fun and it's a treat, but it takes up so much time that I just don't feel the need to do it any other day, and so I'm just not getting through the audiobooks at the rate I was used to. So it took me so long to finish this book, but when I was, you know, once I'd got like halfway through it, I found like my old addiction coming back, you know, where I will make excuses, I will find chores to do with my hands so that I can listen to the audiobook some more. And of course, when I was feeling unwell, it was great. It did take me longer than normal because I found that with the vertigo, when it was really intense, that I couldn't listen to audiobooks sped up. I had to listen to them at normal speed, which is like horrific for me, because then it means that an 8-hour book actually takes 8 hours, an 11-hour book actually takes 11 hours. And I'm just not used to that. I'm used to looking at it and, like, you know, dividing it by half, or like nearly half if I'm listening on 1.8. Yeah, so it took a lot longer than I wanted it to, but I really, really enjoyed it. So yeah, this Green and Pleasant Land is essentially about a Muslim family in a village. It's Bilal, his wife, and his stepson, and they're not particularly like religious. Like I think the wife prays regularly, but Bilal doesn't. You know, he started drinking in pubs like ages ago, and then when his mum dies, her like dying wish is for him to found a mosque in his village. And because he really loved his mum, he really wants to do this, even though he's kind of ambivalent on religion still himself, and he's trying to figure it out. And I just thought it was wonderful. He like, his best friend in the village is the local vicar, and so it brought up some really interesting questions about faith and how it doesn't have to be constant. You know, I'm sort of an ex-religious person. I was quite a religious child, despite not being brought up in a religious family. Like, I really liked religion and believing in it, and that's something that, for me, I grew out of as I got older. But I do find the idea of faith really interesting, and that I think that it's really important to acknowledge that it's not something that is constant for many people. It is something that is a sort of challenge to believe in, and it's something that they can drop in and out of at different points in their life. I mean, I know I have, you know, I know loads of people who have got more religious or less as they've got older. Other people have become spiritual instead. You know, it's a journey, and I've really thought it delved into that whilst focusing on two quite traditional religions where perhaps we don't normally see those kind of stories. You know, I know when I read stories about people questioning their faith and kind of developing their relationship to it, it's usually about people who have like more new age kind of spiritualities. You know, it's like someone's deep relationship to their yoga practice or something like that. You know, so it was really interesting to have like organized religion in this book tackled in this way. So yeah, and I loved it, and it's just charming, and it's just one of these books that is really generous towards all of its characters, even the ones who objectively are not like great people. It treats them with respect and kindness, and generosity is the only way really to describe it. And I really like reading books that are satirical but have this generosity of spirit towards their characters. You know, that's something I really appreciate, sort of showing people as they are, and yeah, not shying away from it, but at the same time not being cruel and not mocking them. That's why I really love Stella Gibbons' writing, because I think that's basically what she does all the time. And yeah, that's what I really loved here. And I really hope that the author writes more books like this. She's best known for writing Sophia Khan Isn't Obliged, which I really loved. I didn't like the sequel so much. So this was kind of like, you know, the pivotal book for me. Like, am I going to love this author again? Or am I going to decide that this is just not one for me? And no, I am hooked now. I will be reading pretty much anything she writes because I want to see, you know, what kind of stories she explores, and, you know, even if I don't like some of them so much, I still think it will be worth reading them. So yeah, I've just gushed about that for probably ages. So the third book I finished in the month was actually this one that I waved at you. One Stories by Emily Spivak, which is basically a set of stories about it's basically, I think the best way to describe it is to show you an example. Oh, here's Greta Gerwig's. So each piece features a photograph of an item of clothing and then a story about it, and they're all by different people. So it's basically like memoirs about individual items of clothing. And when I first read about this on the internet, I thought, great, this is a book that I really want, and I put it on my wish list for one of my birthdays, I think, and I didn't get it, and I was disappointed until I found this in a charity shop, and I was like, yes! And then I was disappointed all over again because I kind of thought there would be more text, and you know, like some of the pages are like finishes halfway up, like some of them are a bit longer and they go on more, but I was a bit disappointed by the amount of white space. But I did really enjoy it, and it's been one I'll be keeping on my shelves because I kind of collect these kind of books, like memoirs about ordinary people's relationship with clothes, and what I've since learned this month, because this is a book I've been reading called Craft of Use, and it's basically about how fashion is used after it's been purchased. So, you know, how people wear it, refashion it, make use of it in other ways, etc. So yeah, basically, I love collecting books about what I now know is called the craft of use. And yeah, so yeah, this is about that pretty much. But yeah, I'm glad I got it in a charity shop, because I do think that if I had paid full price for it, or if I'd got it for a present, I would have been quite disappointed by it. Like, come on. I just don't feel that at the full price of $15.99, it is that good value for money, you know, in terms of actually wanting to read the text and the stories. And I appreciate that obviously it takes quite a long time to research and interview all these people and put it all together and take the photographs, but like, yeah, I feel like I would have been a bit outraged as much as I enjoyed it. Another point to note is that there isn't a great diversity of people in these stories. There are a lot of trendy people who live in New York or LA, you know, let me put it that way. And I would have liked to see a broader range of stories, you know. I am not so interested in celebrities and their clothes as I am in ordinary people and their clothes. And there are some people who are more ordinary, like, you know, they're just like the CEO of a fashion brand or something, rather than being like some celebrity like Greta Gerwig, you know. But yeah. So yeah, it was a bit of a mixed bag. I enjoyed it, but there are some flaws, like, yeah. Like, I would have had a real problem with the value for money, and that I think it could have been more diverse. There could have been more diverse contributors. I can speak. Right, what's up next? Okay, so next up, I finished reading the Giant Days comic series. I'm done. I've read them all. They're all read now. You know how amazing it is to finish like a really long series? It feels like an achievement in itself. And I've really loved reading Giant Days. It's a kind of comedy drama about 3 women who are at university together, and it's just delightful. It's charming, and the illustrations are beautiful. The artist is just stunning. I think it changes artist partway through, and both of them are really good, but I prefer the latter one. But yeah, I absolutely love it. I just, like, every page is a delight looking at how it's been drawn, and yeah. I can't really talk about what was involved in these particular issues. I read, I put them on Goodreads as trade paperbacks, even though I actually read them as single issues on my partner's iPad. But essentially I read volume 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 in June. So that brings me on to the second comic that I read in June, which was some more volumes of Sex Criminals, which is a series I've started before, which is, I can't talk too much about why I started reading it because it ties into a secret project that I'm working on. But yeah, I read volume 3 and 4 of Sex Criminals. So Sex Criminals sounds wrong, doesn't it? So it's essentially It's a series about a couple who can freeze time when they reach a point of satisfaction together, shall we say, and other people who also have weird sex-related powers. It's very strange. It's obviously quite adult, although you know, it doesn't show, it's not like an explicit comic. You just see, like, you know, the backs of people. There are no like genitalia detail shots or anything. So weird to talk about. So yeah, it's really fun, and it's also basically about evil sex police and in an evil bank and capitalism, and all this other stuff kind of feeds into it, which I really enjoy. So yeah, I managed to read another couple of volumes of that before I ran out of battery on the iPad and had to stop. And the last book I finished reading in June was another audiobook, and that was The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary, which I started when the Vertigo was really bad and I just couldn't do anything. So this did take me several days to get through. I think three. Yeah, I think three. I'm listening to quite a long period of time on each of those days as well. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. So this is another romance like The Love Square. It's about a woman who, fleeing the end of her previous relationship, needs somewhere to live, and she has no money because she owes her ex a load of money, and to you know, save money and not have to move in with some colleagues she doesn't particularly like, she sees this ad for a flat share where it's a 1-bedroom flat and he works nights. So her flatmate, essentially, he works nights, so they share the same bed and the same flat, and they're never there at the same time, and it takes quite a long time in the novel for them to meet. And when they do, they're attracted to each other, but they won't admit it, and there's all these complicated things going on with Tiffy, the woman, and her ex, as she's kind of realizing how abusive he was. And that's also a really important theme of the novel, the abuse, whereas Leon, the man, is dealing with the fact that his brother's in prison for a crime he didn't commit, and kind of trying to negotiate the legal system whilst also trying to find the long lost love of one of his patients in the care home where he works as a nurse. And yeah, I really love this. It's delightful. I can see exactly why it got all the hype that it did. It's just so much fun, and I related to Tiffy hard because she is into super quirky clothes, which I am, and she works at a craft publisher, which is like probably like in an alternate universe where I had loads of money and didn't need to worry about crap publishing wages. I would have loved to have worked at a craft publisher. That would have been absolutely amazing. It would be so fun. Anyway, so yeah, that's how I ended June, with The Flat Share, daydreaming about working in a craft publisher and enjoying all the lovely descriptions of Tiffy's outfits and all the romantic stuff that happens in the book. So yeah. Thank you very much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you'd like to see more from me and my fake fringe, which, as predicted, has been driving me mad for the entirety of this video. So it will not feature in my next video at all. I remember now why I gave them up. Where was I? Where was I? Oh yes. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you'd like to see more from me. If you would like to read more books but don't know where to start, check out my free e-course, Ignite Your Passion for Reading, Fall in Love with Books. It is completely free, as I say, and it goes through all the steps to get rid of guilt about unread books and move on into a glorious future filled with books you love and conversation with other people who love them and all of that good stuff. Yes, get on it, guys. Yeah, you'll see me again soon. Bye!